Hey, Gaston, good morning.
Hey, morning, Ray.
I was like, I'm always so used to either saying good afternoon, good evening, or good night, but you're probably 20 minutes away from me, somewhere in the Bellevue area, yeah?
Yep, that is correct. Bellevue.
Yeah. Not often I have someone that's like a stone's throw away from me. So yeah, thanks for joining on Friday today. I appreciate you coming on. I know we've uh, been been in contact and acquainted now for a couple of years, but I'm always appreciative when I can get someone on for the first time and get a chance to hang out and get to know them a little bit better. So.
Yeah, thank you for having me today.
Mhm.
It's been great. It's kind of we met each other for kind of a few years back right now, and but usually it's kind of when you have close people around. You in this context we usually jump into conference virtually everywhere. So it's kind of the
Exactly.
same. We leave kind of 15 minutes between each other.
Yeah, well, and I mean, when we first learned about each other, it was back when you were still living down in Latin America, I believe. And since then, you have moved a lot closer to the Microsoft headquarters.
I can talk a little bit about that in a few minutes.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But for people tuning in, Gaston, another MVP like myself, we met years ago, kind of both in the blogging space. I was managing the blog at the time. You were a contributor for PowerPivot Pro, and we've since obviously come a long ways since then. But yeah, we've kind of swam in that space for a long time, and I both think have some very interesting journeys, certainly when it comes to kind of um, accelerating yourself in Power BI, both in the use case for yourself and within your organization. But I'm very excited to hear about some of that. For people who are not familiar with you, though, do you and before we probably dive into like the story journey, just from like a where you are currently perspective, like what do you do, and who are you in that sense?
Sounds good. Right. Yeah, right on. Okay, my name is Gaston Cruz. I this strange accent is because I'm Uruguayan. It's from Uruguay, South America, between Brazil, Argentina. I joined Slalom actually 3 years ago. Um, I am a data platform architect, basically. Uh, my role right now is as a director in the Microsoft Center of Excellence for Slalom, and I run the what we call the solution area global lead for data and AI projects within Microsoft space. That's a little bit about me. I saw a lot of people from LATAM at this moment. It's kind of really glad to see all of those common faces for me, friends.
Yeah,
LATAM, Spain, to have kind of representative here along the chat. Yeah.
I mean, I love it every time I have someone on who either lives or was from a different part of the world, and then a lot of camaraderie that comes in from people of that area. It's really fun to see just the global influence that some of the streams have. So I for different reasons, but similarly, I'm very appreciative when I see a lot of people cheering you on in Spanish in there. I just wish Google, because they have translate features everywhere else, like there's no button that I can click to next to a message that says translate. I really wish that they had it built into YouTube chats as well, so I could translates from the
Yeah.
times where people are speaking German or Spanish or anything else in there.
Yeah. And that is should be totally doable at this moment, just kind of
They have
calling
it. It's
cognitive
just
services and yeah.
yeah, because they auto translate like when I record my
Yeah.
videos, people can do subtitles in English and Spanish and I think one or two other languages automatically. So they have it. They haven't added it as a feature to the chats yet. Unlike I think Instagram, Teams, and a few others do a translate feature for sure when you're talking to someone in a different language. So if anybody from Google at any point is ever on one of these streams, you should totally put that on into your live stream chats as a feature.
That could be awesome.
Something about secret communications
I I
for
saw
podcasts
I
or
saw
something.
yeah I saw her not joking about kind of we can communicate in secret when we talk
See,
in Spanish.
okay, they
Kind of yeah, that is kind of our key.
I can pick up just enough words at least in there, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think the this is going to be a fun one today. I really enjoy more of the natural language conversations that I can have with individuals where it's just kind of a water cooler chat, and I even in our conversations, I know a little bit about kind of your history certainly and your moves, but I'm excited to kind of hear about some of your insights that you've had as you've journeyed through Power BI, starting with some of the companies down, in LATAM, and then coming all the way up to now Slalom, where you're, director is in your title now, right? Like that was a promotion you got
Yep. Yeah.
January of this year.
Yep. That is
Yeah.
correct.
So
Yeah.
like I'm excited for all that, but like I'm also happy to start wherever you prefer on the subject. So uh, at any point we can kind of transition into that and just talk about like the broader sense of journey with Power BI.
Yeah, I think it's kind of it's a good call, and I really go up, to kind of bring that topic in terms of, it's not about me, but in some sense, I hope that the story resonates with someone that is just kind of watching right now or is watching later this video, uh, and resonate because it's kind of a first message that I want to kind of say here is, it's good to fail. Is I
Oh yeah,
appreciate to fail, and that should be the message because I've been talking about kind of Power BI and data analytics and storytelling for a while. It's kind of I've been in the whole environment for a long time since my background is in economics, financial accountant. I did my kind of my bachelor's degree in that side of the picture, and suddenly I was, back in the days, like I'm kind of old, it's 20, 25 years or 30 years ago. 30 years ago, the story is that I was in the middle of the process of, okay, in Uruguay, you cannot mix careers. You cannot, you need to switch or select your career at 18 years old. And if you, for some reason, you want to change your career, you need to finish your bachelor degree first and then switch to another bachelor's degree. You cannot interchange bachelor's degree. And this is amazing here in the US that you can mix it up. You can go to an associate degree, then switch to another one. It's kind of a really big difference between the education here in the US rather than in Uruguay. So that being said, I was in the middle of the process. Okay, I need to go or accountant or IT, and I was in the middle. Actually I registered myself in both careers
okay,
for the
yeah,
first 2 months. For the first 2 months, 18 years old, I went to the economics university, and then in the afternoon I switched to the engineer that was kind of a few blocks from there. Uh, and I was in the middle of the process. Okay, what should I choose? It's kind of it was a nightmare for me. And it was kind of depressing, at this moment because it's so
sure,
so
yeah.
much pressure in terms of what you're gonna do when you become an adult. It's kind of a you know whole thing that you need to kind of select, and in your mind comes those words. Okay, I cannot fail. I need to kind of select the right one, and I cannot fail in which career should I choose, basically at 18 years old and for
Especially at
the
that age.
entire life. You're
Hmm.
starting to think, okay, this is my entire life. I'm gonna be working on this for my entire career. you know and there is a message that I want to bring here. It's good to try and to switch, and I was kind of reading a lot lately in terms of it's good to say I switch career at least 5 times in my entire life or more. you know it's good to,
Yeah,
to, to kind of start deciding, moving around until you find your passion, because that is what it's about. It's kind of a find your passion and go for it. And it's good to kind of change your passion during your life. And this is a message for someone like 14, 15 years old, 16 years old, that they are in high school, or they are just starting kind of thinking about, okay, what is next, what should I be doing next. And it's good to know, you can switch all the time. Your career.
there's a show that I used to watch that maybe some of you, at least from the US, might remember it. It was called Dirty Jobs. It was on the Discovery Channel, and it was a lot of those like nitty gritty jobs that people did that like you would always think nobody would want to, and you consider yourself to be a failure if you did those jobs. But he wanted to highlight all these like great jobs that people had, and his one of his insights, like the one quote that I remember from that show where he interviewed all these different people, is you you know he was always taught growing up that you have to find your passion in the job. You have to find a job that makes you passionate. If you do that, you'll be chasing your entire life, and you'll never find that. Most people will not find that job. Instead, you need to have your own passion. You need to bring the passion to the job. So it's like it's not a job that necessarily gives you passion innately, but you find a way to be passionate about it. So it's you bring it with you. So when you switch careers 5 times, the passion comes with you. You're not finding it in every new job. You already have it as part of your like your personality, your package. And I've always liked that. Like similarly, I mean, I never really thought I would become a data analyst. Here I am today. I love my job, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But I definitely brought my own way of like and frame set it and thinking to it, and the passion came with me when I started doing what I do today. So I've always liked that mindset is you'll be happier if you find your own passion in yourself and bring it to the careers that you pursue.
Yeah, and you know, as you know, as I was checking in the chat, you know, as Walter mentioned before, you know, Walter is a good friend, and it's never too late, you know. Even if you decide to change your career at 40s or 50s, you know,
Hmm.
it's good to follow your passion, you know. It's that is what it is, you know. So coming back to kind of my story, you know, it's kind of a when I decided to go for accountant and I finished the kind of that bachelor's degree, then I start kind of training people in terms of understanding how they can get the best, you know, from the accountant world using technology. So my main thing was, I cannot say even Excel because it was before Excel. It was like kind of Lotus 1, 2, 3 or something like that. You know, I trained people in terms of how they can go to the spreadsheet walls and get the best from spreadsheets from the accountant world using technology, you know. And I remember some kind of weird keyboard shortcuts to make it happen with Lotus 1, 2, 3 and using kind of a programming language. Even was not VBA, but was something like VBA, like Visual Basic for applications, you know.
Some type of a
And
macro, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I explain a little bit of the, you know, how they can run automatic process in the payroll system,
Yeah.
pay slips, all the stuff, you know. It's fun stuff, you know. And everybody was saying, okay, but you're kind of a guru in this one, you know. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of magic trick for me, you know. And suddenly from that moment I was, you know, in a private university where I just jumping into kind of that world of training people around kind of accountants and that mixing between accountants and spreadsheets. Then suddenly Excel come up and I start training people in the very first version of Excel and how they can run things and doing things. And in that, you know, that was kind of an MBA program for that private university in Uruguay. So then I switch a little bit on that role and start kind of uh, creating academic courses for that private university. That was more kind of a Excel for financial people, Excel for data analysts. That moment, kind of a fancy word was kind of business intelligence. It was a kind of a new word for everyone. And I was kind of starting, you know, in that stream in terms of, you know, helping people to understand, okay, what they can be doing with Excel
Hmm.
and where when they can switch between, you know, Excel and other technologies, you know, like understanding the mixing between Excel, first version of SQL at that moment was an amazing access, you know,
Oh
where
God.
they can understand, okay, what is going on with the, you know, databases, relational models and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So basically, at that moment, what I decided to do was kind of I start training people. I was kind of a academic coordinator at private university, and I started the other career, the engineer career. You know,
Mm.
and I decided that because I was in that feeling, you know, that okay, I finished accountant, but I don't want to be accountant. I don't want that the career of accountant was my primary career. I was kind of that feeling of, okay, what's next. So I was starting that, the engineer career in terms of understanding what is going on with the IT world, understanding kind of the basics, what is kind of the uh, objects, classes, or .NET. I remember
Yeah.
kind of reading the first book from Scott Hanselman. That was like, oh, this is amazing. It's kind of a whole new world for me. I understand a little bit the whole concept of engineer. It's kind of a really really different kind of world for me. So that being said, is again the message was try. It's good to go and try. Try things. Try different stuff. And uh, after that, I started to kind of doing more kind of I switched from that private university that was my full-time job, and I switched to the consultant world. So I start kind of doing consultancy. At that moment was more like SQL, integration services, reporting services. I think it was before on that. I touched the very first version of SharePoint at that moment.
Oh,
The name
God.
wasn't SharePoint, was WSS. This was Windows SharePoint service that they deliver with the kind of one of the version of Windows, Windows Server. I think was 2000. Yeah, Windows Server 2000.
There's a lot more
That they
coding
deliver.
required to use it at the
That
time
was
too. Yeah,
that
there
was a
was not drag
nightmare.
and drops. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, no, that was a nightmare. It's kind of to
Hmm.
bring a whole farm in SharePoint. It took a long time. And and actually, then a little bit later, kind of one of the business intelligence strategy. I don't know why we were doing that, but that was kind of a really good strategy for you know spread the word in terms of business intelligence. So remember kind of the very first version of, I think it was SharePoint 2010, where we can embed Excel files, but Excel files with a little bit of energy. That was the
Power
Power
View.
Pivot, Power Pivot that you can embed. Power Pivot plus Power View plus Power Maps plus Power Query, all in the same kind of a strategy where you can embed that in SharePoint and you can do kind of collaborations,
I think if I
insights.
remember, you could even the model could refresh, right? I
Yep,
think you
yep.
could even
It wasn't
refresh the Power Pivot model. It was like a huge. It was essentially Power BI Online before Power BI Online became a thing. Because this is
was a
yeah.
cool thing, that
Uh,
kind of service principal strategy and all the web parts that you need to be kind of linking between each other was a big deal. Was a really good way to share kind of
hmm.
reports in an enterprise company and all stuff. At that moment, I was working as a consultant for a Microsoft partner company from Uruguay, but I used to travel to Chile, to Peru, to other countries to implement this kind of projects. Suddenly, in the same company, I was kind of playing different hats, pre-sales, consultant, some kind of project management or scrum master or all the stuff. So I've been kind of playing that role, for a while in terms of switching a little bit of, okay, I want to be consultant, but I want to kind of taste a little bit of different roles, that I can play in that company, and suddenly after a few years, that was kind of going forward, that was kind of the 2013 or something, yeah, 14. uh, I start playing the role of data analytics architect, and more around kind of the management of the team. So that being said, what I switch a little bit was more in terms of the management on creating data analytics teams in different countries. So I was more in kind of helping people to kind of understand, okay, how to work remote at that moment, 2014, 15. That was
Hmm.
kind of a big deal for all of us. So mainly I was based in Uruguay, but I used to travel to Chile, to Peru, to different countries in LATAM to create those data analytics teams, managing the pipeline of different projects in different countries, and help kind of create those data analytics streams. Uh, that is kind of a little bit about me before I joined Slalom here in the US. Uh, in 2019, yeah, 2019 seems a long time away now. It's kind of,
Pre-COVID.
yeah, COVID, pre-COVID. I joined Slalom, and suddenly when I start here at Slalom, I start again as a consultant because I was kind of missing again the technical side of things, doing things, where you can implement your own architecture design, helping, clients in terms of defining planning, roadmap, governance, where should I go, what is next, what is a data platform world, all the kind of fancy stuff, so suddenly in my role here in Salom, I start switching a little bit hats between the technical world, and now I'm more in kind of the management, and that planning and roadmap is more strategy for my team, strategy for our team here. It's kind of that is kind of a little bit of story of where I am at this moment.
Well, I want to point out like well, I'll have a question for you in a second, but Chewy mentioned like the fact that he was years old when he discovered that you did not have an IT background directly out of college. It's related for me because accounting at least deals with numbers in that sense. But I mean, similar with me, I started in a psych background. I come from a family with two therapists, and I thought I was gonna be a psychologist. I've always liked tech though, and I slowly transitioned into it. So it goes to show that you can have one very different idea for yourself in high school and have a huge career change as you move into different industries. So like nothing is ever set in stone in that regard. But I think it's
Exactly.
really cool that you've managed to kind of shift your perspective and the goalpost to where you wanted to be. A question that I have for you that I think kind of is in two parts. As you continue to change the where you were aiming for a lot of the next thing that you wanted to go for, what were you looking for? Like, what drew you to certain stuff? And I guess as well as once you're in any of those fields, like I know I have a bit of like choice paralysis sometimes with Power BI on like keeping focused on what I should be learning because the platform is too broad. There's too many things to be an expert in all of it. Like, and I rely on other professionals now for certain legs, but yeah. So yeah, how do you aim yourself towards something to learn if you want to pursue that, and then how do you keep focused on that versus trying to like learn everything at once?
That's a really interesting question, Reid, and I think that is why I switch hats a lot during my entire professional life, because
Yeah.
that kind of passion is changing all the time for me. I'm that guy that get up in the morning, and sometimes I want to be 100% hands-on that day. Doing strategy, doing planning, implementing things. Going to a project and see performance issues and solving those performance issues in terms of what is the latency, what is the connector that you're using, are you using kind of a composite model, are you using kind of a hybrid table, what you are doing with your data model. And that day I would love to be 100% touching things and doing things with Power BI or with data platform stuff. Some days I get up in the morning, what I would love to do is kind of planning stuff for my team, planning
Mm-hmm.
certifications roadmaps, planning data engineers streams, what should be doing next. More for my team, thinking about what is going to be next for my team, what is going to be next in terms of
Mm.
their careers, what should I be doing for my team in terms of growing their
Yep.
skills and give them the opportunity to love their work, because that is today, that is key for me, that 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 my team love, eventually not 100% of the time because we are consultants, but
Yeah,
uh,
of course.
love your career, love your life, love your work. I think that is a message for me, that is a message that resonates with me, you should be loving what you are doing daily basis, and not just loving because the technology is interesting. It's because the project that you're implementing resonate or impact communities, in terms of what you are delivering. What you are delivering, the outcome is gonna be used by many persons and you impact their lives in terms of what you're building.
Hmm. I agree.
That is one thing for me. That is pretty important at this moment. But during the whole career, there's aspects that resonates with me in terms of what is my passion, and I've been thinking for a while about this, and I love kind of the concept and moving kind of the main topic for us today is storytelling. I love to tell a story. I love to tell a story behind the scenes. I love to
Yes.
know how is the best to tell a story.
Well, a story gives life to the topic, right? I mean, otherwise it's, it moves it from a fact to a narrative.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of it's the narrative and it's the message that you want to deliver, because at the end of the day, someone is going to make decisions with your data, and the data right now is everywhere. I've been talking with my son around that, because he is right now he's pursuing the bachelor in business, and he loves kind of I kind of being your travels everywhere, Reed, and he was saying, I want to be like Reed, but it's not about the work that you've been doing. It's
Yeah,
about your passion, and even the message for him was kind of even if you're doing business and you want to pursue your career in business, and you want to travel, you want to kind of get your own travel agency or whatever, and create your business around that, it's going to be data behind the scenes. It's going to be their data for you, and you will
exactly.
love to tell a story behind the scenes with your data, because you want to be able to see the data and make decisions with that data and tell a story with that data. And that is going to be your path moving forward, because we are collecting data from everywhere at this moment. We are collecting data from all social medias. We are collecting data from IoT devices. Even our kitchen is collecting data all the time at this moment. So what I mean is kind of you need to kind of focus on what is your story, what you want to be able to tell with your story and with your data. And doesn't matter in which in which path you are telling the story. If you are in marketing, if you are in retail, if you are in mounting a travel agency, if you are a realtor, renting houses or selling houses, whatever, it's all about the data and how you're gonna create the story with the data that you have. You know.
I agree, and I think a lot of that for me, in terms of taking time to discover and find your passion and keep your passion in a lot of stuff, I think comes from the need to give yourself the time to do so. Like if you have a task list of like things that you want to do, that's for your self-development in any way, uh, they're often not going to get done if they stay on a list. But if you give yourself time per week to do those, like mine is after this, I will catch up on a few emails, but basically the second half of my Friday, from about 1 p.m. until the end of the day, I still work, but it's reserved for me. Like that might be catching up on a blog, scripting out maybe another video, but it's just time dedicated to whatever I want to do for myself or for my business, not like client-facing work. And I say that to anybody else, even if it's just like 30 minutes a day. Like if you can schedule and block off on your calendar time to just give yourself an ability to think or do whatever you're interested in, for self-development in any way, that's when it actually is going to get done. Otherwise, it will just continually stay on the list, and you'll just keep thinking, "Oh, I'll find time tomorrow. I'm going to find time tomorrow," but then you never do because things keep, other more urgent stuff keeps coming up. So you have to prioritize it in the way. And the easiest way for me has always been just reserving time on a calendar to do that, so it doesn't get filled up with other stuff.
Yeah, and as the message from you is amazing in terms of you need to kind of block time for you, block
Mm-hmm.
time for you to follow your passion, to discover what is your passion, because it's that is the key here. If you are able to discover what that is something that happens to me, but I don't feel that I'm working all the time. I really feel that I really enjoy what I'm doing daily basis. I
Yeah.
really uh, today is Friday morning. I should be doing a bunch of stuff in my work, and
Yeah.
this is my work. I pretty enjoyed this conversation with you because couple of things around this. These kind of connections, these kind of relationships, these kind of networkings help us to discover our passions all the
Yep.
time. More you connect with people, more you connect to and create your networking. And this is a message in terms of what we will be discussing later today, I hope. But the connection with your user groups, with your meetups, with your conference, with your network, and doesn't matter if you are a guru in Power BI. You can be going to a Power BI meetup,
Yep.
conference, sessions, get connections, and you are going to discover that most of those people that attends to those meetups, they are in the same stage as you. They come from different worlds, different contexts, with different problems, different
Oh,
kind
I
of
agree.
data coming from eh, different industries, and they are not
Yep.
masters or gurus in Power BI. They are there just to learn, because at this moment I come to conference or sessions because it's more what I learn than what I share with the community. I share my process, my learning, my path, some of the experience in different projects, but it's too much or more what I learn from the community, every time I come to these kind of sessions.
Well, and I mean, we can go down, I'm sure, a rabbit hole for this for hours. But the one thing that you were mentioning about the user groups, like it really does work. A good reason that I'm probably where I am today was because of a user group. I got my last employer before I branched out and am now independent of my own company, PowerPivot Pro. I had gone to a user group 3 years. Well, it's probably like 6 years ago now. And I during a guest presentation from the Rob, the owner of the company, I chirped up and just mentioned that, oh yeah, by the way, your video training helped me get a job. Fast forward 2 years after that, and this was probably like actually like 7 years ago and then five, but either way, long in the past. I'm at another user group meeting, same location here in Redmond, and I bump into Avi Singh, who at the time was another worker with Rob at Power Pivot Pro, wrote the book with him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're that guy who like a couple of years ago mentioned that like you went through this course. Like, hey, we should like, do you want to grab coffee?" And then we did for a bit, and like, hey, we're hiring. So it was a series of meetings that happened at this user group that led to me a job, which eventually helped me start my own. But it really does like the networking's huge, and like I help host the user group now with in our local area, and a big thing that we have is we provide an hour of like networking where you can just chit chat before the presentation starts. So you do learn something for sure at a lot of those stuff, but you meet like-minded people, individuals that maybe you can just chat about the technology with. But also, it's just sometimes there's a lot of opportunities that get passed around. Hey, does anybody do SQL work, or is anybody here working on Azure? And I would say a good user group gives space for that. So it really cannot be underemphasized like how valuable those can be to get in touch with your local community at those, and just attend one of those like once a month on like a Wednesday night, at least when ours is hosted. So like I'm a personal success story that's a good evidence of the value that those things have for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes that kind of conversation happens as you mentioned before. Is that kind of conversations and connection sometimes happens not in the session itself, on the conference itself. Those kind of conversations happens in having a coffee, having lunch. I
Yep.
remember back in a couple of years ago when I was I think it was in Ignite or business application summit that I met this guy, and we just kind of share lunch together and start talking about and switch to Spanish, and that guy was Chuy from our Power BI community, and we had a really great time. We had a really great time just grabbing lunch, sharing kind of a little bit of our experience, our stories, and that is the kind of the connection that
Hmm.
I really strong. My advice is jumping in this kind of world and in this kind of context that we have right now was it's amazing. It's kind of how many people you can kind of meet in that sense. So
I completely agree. And
yeah,
you mean by Chewy, you mean the individual who's in most of my streams, I would say. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love this guy.
That's honestly like, I mean, it's I wouldn't call this a meetup group, but in a lot of ways, the live streams that I do are like, I mean, there's certainly a community of individuals like Chewy, Matthias, and a few others where I see them on 90% of my streams. So it's nice to even like virtually build a little network and just, chat and hang out with people and socialize, eventually learn some stuff along the way. So there's so many different value adds that comes from this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So basically, going back to kind of one of the main deals with us,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this conversation between us, Reed. But going back to kind of the main goal for us, kind of I've been having these kind of conversations many times, and all the time I'm switching my advice, because the Power BI is kind of ramping up so fast in terms of platforms. But kind of when someone asks me, okay, how I can start talking about data, how I can jump into the world of data, how I can understand the world of data analytics, I always try to kind of start with the process of, okay, first of all, you need to understand what you want to tell with the data that you're going to reach,
Oh,
because
yes.
data is everywhere. Data is at this moment, data is everywhere, and doesn't matter the industry, the client, the company, or even if my call to actions, because I used to talk a lot, so I want to say the call to action before we end up this session. The call to action is go and look for your passion, and if your passion is football, or what we call in US soccer, for me is football, go and create a Power BI report with all data from your league, from if you are in England, get data from the Premier League. If you are in
Yep.
Mexico, get data from your Mexico Liga. If you are in Uruguay, get data from the Uruguay Liga, and create your Power BI report with all that data, because you are going to be passionate about that data. You're going to be looking about, okay, how many scores did this player, how how my team goes from be number 10 until be number 3, yeah, when
Yeah.
we finish the league. So that kind of sense, it's amazing how much you can learn, because the passion for you is the data behind the scenes. It's not the technology itself. It's not Power
Agreed.
BI. Is the data that is behind the scenes. So you're gonna get much more insights, because you know the field that you're working on. The field in this case is gonna be soccer, and I love to talk about soccer. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I am a nightmare talking about soccer. So uh, that being said, first of all, start with the theory. Start with theoretical stuff without including the technology itself in your storytelling. So I'm gonna drop a couple of links here for
We
two
flip over.
books I recommend to start. This is the first one, Storytelling with Data. I really strong advice to start with this book, in terms of, start thinking about kind of how to tell a story. And the other one is from a big friend of mine, Miri Rodriguez. Uh, she works at Microsoft at this moment. The brand storytelling is another great book to start thinking, first of all, around your
Yes.
story,
It's
around
really funny. Is
how you're
there?
going to tell a
I,
story.
I don't know Miri. At
It,
first, I thought you said Miguel. Because I think we also have a Miguel who's like the wizard of visualization and aesthetics at Microsoft on the
oh,
cat
you
on the
are
cat
talking
team.
about Miguel Myers, I think.
Miguel Myers, yeah. When you said Miri, I thought you said Miguel because he's what I think of when it comes to like who can make the most beautiful narrative storytelling like things. Because he's also a graphic designer. Like he's amazing.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like I'm envious of like the level that he can produce with that stuff.
Yeah. uh, this one, Miri, she was my host. I think was in Ignite last year. She's amazing in terms of telling the story without, it's about kind of the marketing stuff, the engagement with your customer, the engagement with your story. So in this book, she tell a little bit of how we can leverage the storytelling with a brand behind the
Hmm.
scenes. It's a really great book, and I recommend 100% to kind of get that book. It's amazing. Yeah, yeah. So this is kind of a my blog in terms of, start with theoretical and don't introduce, any technology uh, in the mix of how you're going to bring a story with the data you're going to reach, or you're going to embed in your design thinking of reports or dashboards. It's this is 100% theoretical stuff. Then the next step for me in terms of starting your career in the data analytics world, then you can start thinking about kind of learning path using Power BI. Just give an example. So
Hmm.
when you start with Power BI, back in my days, I start Power BI. Even the name wasn't Power BI, as you know, but when I start with Power BI, I was training multiple times the dashboard in a day. I think I was doing kind of 200 sessions in 1 year. Was amazing how much reception we have. That I started in Microsoft Uruguay, then I switched to Chile. I did the same in Argentina, and I did that training of dashboard in a day multiple times, because
Mm.
at that moment was a really good training to understand the life cycle management of Power BI. When you start with the Power BI desktop, download the tool, get the data, start the sense of data modeling, and start the sense of, okay, how I can publish this to the service, how I can do this, and how you can start thinking on an end-to-end solution in Power BI. But nowadays, in the current context, I what I prefer to do is switch to this link, and this link has Microsoft Learn. I'm gonna paste that in the chat.
I will say that
Mm,
the quality of the docs and learning has changed a lot in the last 3 years. Like it used to be okay, but there were massive gaps, which allowed for a lot of logging and custom training and everything else. So like it in a way, I am very appreciative of like how much better it's gotten in the last few years.
yeah,
From an independent contractor perspective, it does make it harder to sell training and stuff because they've gotten better at providing free ones. So it, like it works out. It just means what you have to do is in your careers you have to shift your attention maybe to other stuff. Most of my work is still development anyways, which is fine. But I have appreciated that it's become easier, and you also have official training because it's with a
yeah,
lot of this because you don't like well all right, this training has like a lot of reviews on Udemy, but like, is it teaching all correct methods? At least when you come to Microsoft for their content, it's going to be like this is the right way to do something if it's available here.
yeah, exactly. And you can see that the whole learning path in terms of create the analytics reports, Power BI is all different learning path to each of these sections. I usually recommend to start from here, because you can start from scratch. Even you can explore these collections, and you can start looking around all the, step by step in terms of building your careers, understanding what is going to be a data analyst.
Exactly.
I feel that the content itself is not just for Power BI.
Hmm.
It give you a little bit of sense of what is going on in terms of storytelling, and how you can start thinking on deliver that story to your customers in different ways, and what should be our strategy in terms of implementing projects and implementing the whole platform itself end to end. That is kind of a little bit of the structure that I prefer to kind of to anyone starting in the data analytics world. Start with the theory first, then switch to practical stuff, try to see all these collections in terms of formal or official,
Mm-hmm.
courses and learning path, and then you can switch, of course, to our community, because what is amazing for me in terms of is 6-7 years for Power BI in the production environment is the
Yeah.
community. For me, is
Mm-hmm.
so much important the community that we have in Power BI, and the community is all. I'm not talking about kind of a masters or gurus like you or Gaina Cube or Marco. It's about a community that we bring all together in multiple conference, all the Twitter going back and forth with questions and jokes with the Power BI team, and the involvement of the team itself. It's not the only the product team from Microsoft that they love to hang out with the community. Also, services or the Power BI cat team involved in all these kind of fun conversations, sometimes around Power BI, sometimes about soccer games, sometimes about any sense,
Mm-hmm.
that creates a whole kind of engagement. I think that is the way, why Power BI is what it is at this moment. Is because it's a really great tool. It's a really great framework, but there's a community behind the scenes. There's a community behind the scene that is always pushing to create that kind of relationship, networking, feedback going back and forth all the time, because that is a really good thing to know in terms of the ideas portal was there for a while, and when you see that all the ideas that you are proposing, everybody's voting for your idea and the product team is
Yep.
make that happen, that means a lot. When you see that, you know back in the days, I remember, oh, I would love to export this report as PDF. When you see that idea, someone vote for the idea, and then you see the idea coming to the Power BI services or Power BI desktop, you realize that it's not just a joke to be on the ideas portal and to propose something. It makes it make happen.
I agree, and I think especially with the Power BI ideas, like it's nice to get involvement with the product change and the evolution. I've actually like not and I think for both of us, knowing the product team and Will and everything else, like they've been putting more staff into actually trying to review and consolidate, because one thing is a lot of duplicate ideas get puts up, and there's no machine that magically like knows, oh nope, that's a duplicate, this already exists here. People have to manually go through and review all the ideas. Wait, is this idea similar to this one? Could these actually be merged, and can we combine the two votes? And apparently it's a lot of hours and time and money to to thoroughly manage that. So I think they got a little backlogged for a while. It sounds like in the last year or so they've been doing better at trying to go through and review, because there are some ideas that have like 1,000 votes but have also been up there for 3 or 4 years for feature
Yeah,
changes.
yeah,
So, but either way,
yeah.
they do make an effort to hear. It's not always as fast as we want it to be, because sometimes there's just not enough you know uh, person power to throw at it to track it, just because of how many submissions there are. But that's always been one of my cornerstone features, is the community within Power BI. Even before I was an MVP and I got to have like some of the insider conversations, I've always felt included just because of the community forums, meetup groups, and then being able to help vote on things that I would like to see coming into the product as it evolved.
Yeah, and one of the things that you kind of slide there, and for me is kind of really important to mention, that is that you don't need to be an MVP to have these kind of connections, to have these kind of involvements. The community is for everyone. The community is there for everyone, and it's good to know that you can jump into different meetups, different Power BI user groups, different YouTube channels, and see how
Mm-hmm.
much people reactions get you to be involved in their communities.
Mm-hmm.
uh, get involved in Usually, if you go to any meetup or any Power BI user groups, everybody is open to get your sessions, open to discuss with you your issues, getting feedback from you, getting involved in terms of what are your projects, what you did with the platform itself, what is your current state. Everybody's open to start that conversation. And
Agreed.
the message is, what I mean is, you don't need to be a master or guru or an MVP in the Power BI space, on the data platform space, to start that journey. I read with someone just reach back to me and ask me, okay, Gaston, what should I do next? I did these certifications in Power BI. I did the DA 100 certification, and what is next? And that is really good, in terms of giving the advice of, okay, what do you want to do? Because in my own team, that you can go to different paths. As you mentioned before, the data platform world is enormous at this, is a giant beast
Yeah.
at this moment. So you can get lost pretty quick if you're focused, or you want to focus on different stage of the platform. So before jumping to that one, what I would love to do is talk about the community. And for me, the community is starting with those two crazy guys. I
Yeah.
really appreciate what Adam and Patrick, they are doing with Power BI, mainly because GainaCube is not an official channel for Microsoft. That is 100%
Hmm.
community engagement, and that means a lot, because if you start looking the very first videos from Adam in that real cube that he had, that was amazing, because it was really a guy that want to share knowledge. Uh, he was not doing this for Microsoft. He was not doing for his position or his role at that moment. He was doing this for getting the engagement with the communities, to have the connection. And that is the message from GainaCube, is connect with community, give the community what the community has been asking for, in terms of feedback, going back and forth with Q&A, doing live streams with different people that can answer questions around their current state of the art in terms of using Power BI, end-to-end solutions, going back and forth and having fun with the communities. That is not their principal role in Microsoft. They are doing this only for community, and 100% for community. Seems that I'm a fan of GainaCube, but I really appreciate what they are doing. I really appreciate what they are doing for community, because this is the message. It's 100% community.
Oh, I completely agree. And like you said, it's not an official Microsoft thing in any regards. And you know, that's even something that I think talking to him, I'm appreciative knowing like his what I do and about his history, that Microsoft's allowed him to to be because he's the cat team lead for all and it's customer engagement basically for the United
Yeah.
States, and he manages a lot of stuff, and then separately having almost a full-time or part-time job doing this, and like, especially with the number of videos that they produce a week, it's incredible. So it's good to see both the community support for that, clearly with 240,000 subscribers that he has now. I think the largest in the Power BI space up, and it's larger than the Microsoft channel, I believe now too. The
Yeah.
official Power BI YouTube. It's still, as I talk to him, a few times a year, like it's a goal of mine someday in the future to hit 100,000. I would like that little silver YouTube play button to put on my wall, but I think the quality is incredible on the videos, and they do a lot of really cool stuff, and the community engagement, with their Q&As that they do every Saturday. It's 7 a.m. my time, so it's hard for me to tune into them most times, considering I typically go out on a Friday. But otherwise, I often look to him to kind of do production quality. So I mean, I started doing live streams because he did, and I took inspiration from that. And he's been very helpful on giving me lots of advice over the years on how to improve my videos. I started doing all of my recorded videos now have me talking to the camera, because he says that you need to build a connection with your audience, and one thing that helps with that is Don't just be a speaking voice, that's a ghost. Like have actual cameras of you speaking to it, talking about, your ideas and stuff. So many of the reasons that my videos are now more polished has been advice that he's had from all of his time with YouTube.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And just a fun story here. When I was in Uruguay organizing the very first SQL Saturday, that was 2017, I guess. Uh, and just to kind of the audience know about this, I just out of the blue connect with them in Twitter and invite Patrick and Adam to came to Uruguay. Very first SQL Saturday in Uruguay. Uruguay is a really small country, uh, and right away they answered to me and they came to Uruguay. We hanging out together in Uruguay with the very first SQL Saturday. We engaged directly with the community there.
Hmm.
We got a speaker dinner and all the stuff. It's and that is a message that resonates with me. It's even if you are talking about kind of rock star like Adam, like Patrick, or Marco, or uh, you can reach back to them, and they're going to be really open, to connect with you, to kind of answer your questions. It's great to know that the community is there for support. It's and that engagement, it's for almost everyone in the community. It's for the product team. That applies again to the product team, because they are really open in terms of connecting with you and get feedback from you and ask you many questions around how you're using the platform itself. That resonates pretty much with me. And
Yep.
as I mentioned this with GuineQ, with Patrick and Adam, uh, some of other channels that they want to point it out. Of course, your channel, Evans. I really appreciate what you're doing. Besides the live streams, all the kind of uh, tips and tricks and best practice, and those quick videos that can resonate with anyone that start the process of doing things and get better insights with data. That for me is kind of amazing in terms of how much you can get from these kind of YouTube channels, in terms of how do things in a better way within Power BI.
Agreed. Thank you.
Uh, then I switched to these guys. Of course, I recommend
Yeah.
this channel from Marco and Alberto. They are kind of amazing. They've been doing amazing things. If you search for those names, Marco or Alberto, in Amazon, they have kind of a Bible in terms of DAX and data modeling. They have a Bible in terms of understanding what is tabular models and how you can start your journey using tabular models, and understanding what is the backend of tabular models, and what is happening behind the scenes every time you create a measure in DAX, because that is key to understand how you can optimize what you are doing daily basis. And with this channel, you can understand exactly what's going on when you create your data model and how you create your data model. Then I switch to this one. I love what Rose is doing in terms of cover. She's doing an amazing job in terms of all the kind of the way she engaged with community is awesome, in terms of your understanding how to do things with Power BI, and combine Power BI with a lot of stuff like Power Automate, like Power Apps and all the stuff. It's amazing. And I want to take all the time because we are almost there. Uh, Rest and Layla, they are kind of reference for me. It's kind of reference for me in terms of uh, um, not only about best practice, is around kind of how much you can do with Power BI, combining different features that comes at this moment to Power BI. Just to give an example, machine learning, how you can engage Power BI with machine learning models, how you can get best practice to with data flows, all the kind of stuff that Reza and Leila, they've been doing an amazing job for our entire community. So I recommend that channel too.
Yeah. And certainly when it comes to Power Query stuff, I've always really liked Reza's post that he does.
Yeah. So then what I would love to kind of do here is just give a little bit of snapshots on, the new wave of Power BI groups. This page, you can search for Power BI groups next to your location. That is huge in terms of, uh, as we mentioned before, Reid, in terms of, be engaged with the community. That is really, really important for me.
Oh yeah,
Get the connection with local teams, get the connections with attending different. Nowadays is almost all virtually, so you can jump right away to any conference, any Power BI user group, attend the meetups, every time, so you can do that, and it's amazing what you can get connecting with local user groups.
agreed. And as we've talked about throughout this stream, like the value add that comes from just making connections there, even just making new friends and people who have a similar interest with you, like huge value. And a lot of that comes out later. I mean, I know certainly like as a consultant for my job, another big add is just having a network of people with 1,000 skills. It was one of the questions that I asked you, like if you try to be a jack of all trades, people forget the second half of that. You're a master of none. I know I can't be a master of everything within the Microsoft stack anymore, certainly what my clients need, but I, I I've made so many connections where it's like, oh, I'm mental note or I write it down. Like this person is really good at this thing. Maybe at some point, if I ever have a project that might need that, I'll see if they're available to maybe help with that. And I've actually ended up um, helping my business a lot by connecting with other people and being able to use them when there's times where there's certain things with other platforms or other tool sets that I'm not an expert in to call upon them to and work with them then for that stuff. So even like there's just like such a long list of various reasons that you are like building that business network can um, pay it forward and pay back both directions when you meet all those people.
Yeah, and it's kind of don't hesitate in terms of, connect with the network, connect with your meetup user groups back there, join these kind of meetups, get the connections, and
Hmm.
don't hesitate to raise your hand if you want to tell your story, because that is
Yes.
that is amazing. That is amazing in terms of, tell the story on, what was your challenge when you start the process with Power BI. What was your challenge when you started your data analytics career? Those rest
Yeah.
those kind of stories resonate with everyone, and we learn a lot when we hear about that. And one more thing, don't be shy in terms of, when you see, any meetup or user group, and you see, okay, last 5 sessions, last one was Adam, the one before that was Marco Russo, the one before that was Reza.
Yeah.
Don't be shy to go there, because we love to hear stories from everyone. Doesn't matter your name, or if you are an MVP, or if you're a guru, or you're a master in Power BI.
Hmm.
Everyone has a really great story to tell, and that kind of sense of tell your story, sharing your knowledge, share your challenges, that resonates with our community. That is kind of really meaningful for Power BI user groups and data analytics streams and data analytics communities globally. That means a lot. uh, I think we are on time. One more thing that I want to mention
Yeah.
is a big shout out to kind of all the Spanish groups out there, that they've been doing an amazing job in terms of creating content, not only in English, because suddenly we have a huge network that comes to the data analytics streams and only speaks, just say, Spanish, just to give an example. So I'm gonna miss a lot of names, but Walter Calcaño from Chile, Ana Maria
Hmm.
Brisbe from Spain, Pablo Moreno, all all the people that are working in, really hard in terms of sharing knowledge for a whole community in Spanish, and they are kind of translating, creating
Yep.
content, because sometimes can be hard for someone that English is not their native language. It's
Yep.
it's kind of hard for them to kind of ramping up for the first time in using these technologies.
And I dropped Miguel Escobar as well in the link. He's one of the few where like every blog post that he did for years, he would post both in English and in Spanish, and very few people I know did that. It was usually like you pick one or the other. That's double the effort, to have to write that
Yeah,
for every single post. So, like you said, uh,
yeah,
I think certainly for the Spanish community, everyone you mentioned, like Anna Maria, like when I went over and I think I was in Madrid and I presented at a local university with her, but she was very welcoming, and like the community over there was fantastic and I loved it. So like I very much want to help as many non-English speaking communities stand up for that because I think it's they're up and coming. We have plenty already in English, but I
yeah.
continue to be happy when I see more of them being stood up in other countries, cultures, and languages. I think it continues to feel to help people in those communities feel more supported, and it also just helps spread adoption. And people can learn the tool better when they don't have to use Google Translate to
Yeah,
translate a blog,
exactly.
which the a lot of the love in the life gets lost in I feel like translations when you have to use that. It doesn't always come through very well, and especially when you have terms like DAX and hybrid tables and other stuff like you get weird translations for those if you do auto translate.
Yeah, so the a message from my end, the kind of call to action here to kind of end up the session is kind of if you want to be involved with data analytics streams, Power BI, all this kind of stuff we are doing daily basis, and we are really passionate about talking about this. Uh, you know, find your key element in terms of what is going to be your storytelling. Find that insights and the niche of what you're passionate about. In I put the always example of soccer games because that is my passion, and I can get so much information from almost everywhere, and I can start creating my learning path on Power BI with these kind of topics or themes that is my passion behind the scenes. So it's going to be a win-win for me, because I am doing
Mm,
something that I passionate that is not work for me, and at the same time I am learning a new platform, a new technology from the scratch. So uh, the learning process shouldn't be so hard if you are doing things that
yeah,
resonate with you in your hobby time. It's kind of if your hobby is to travel, if your hobby is to kind of doing search around any kind of topics, you can get insights and get information from that theme, from that topic, and start your career and start your learning process using that kind of information. So my call to action is that start the process with something that is really fun for you, because that is not going to be really hard for you. It's going to be you're going to be having fun learning from scratch data analytics streams,
I
because
agree.
the information is your passion, it's your fun, it's your hobby. That is kind of key here.
I think I do have one question that's for you. It
Yeah.
ends with something about Power BI desktop and automation, so I will throw it onto the screen. Maybe you can translate it for me.
Yeah, the question is why there's almost no books around Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop.
Interesting.
My guess is because Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop, they are pretty new technologies if you compare with Power BI.
Yeah.
That's most kind of but there's a lot of really great content in YouTube. uh, I think April Dunham, she is doing an amazing job in terms of bringing Power Automate and Power Automate Desktop. There's another channel for Daniel Christian about Power Automate and how to do things more in the stream of automation, but also with RPA. combination between Power Automate Desktop. So check that channel from Daniel Christian. I'm gonna put the name in the chat. He is also an MVP in business applications,
And there is
and
a
he has a really good vision.
yeah, and I was gonna say Shane Young, who's over at Power Apps
Yeah,
911. Wow, I actually just like I looked at his YouTube channel. He has 116,000 subscribers. That's okay, yeah. I haven't been on it for like a year, so his channel is huge now apparently. But
yeah.
tons of videos on the Power Platform. They primarily focus on Power Apps and Power Automate. So
Mm-hmm.
really good resource there for those
Yep,
videos. And
yep,
great question too,
yep.
by the way. Thank you, Eladio.
Yeah.
All right. What I'll say for the audience, if there's any other questions, drop it in there now. But otherwise, Gaston, this was really fun today. I enjoy the natural conversations like this where we can just hang out and chit chat, and people learn a lot of stuff from it too. But uh, you know, I've certainly gotten to know you a lot better. I feel at the end of this more connected with the community, and it's been really cool just to hear some of your stories and some of the parallels that we've shared too. Both of us coming from a bit of a non-technical background coming into Power BI, and I think we have very similar philosophies around, uh, where the passion should reside, which should be in you, not the job itself, and being able to, hop between careers with that regard. I will say too, like studies have also shown, just for people listening in, uh, unlike I would say our parents' generation, there was kind of like you pick a career, that is your career for life. Like similar with marriage, you have a marriage and a career,
Yeah.
those don't change. You have to like stick with it because like do
Yeah.
deviating from that is like weak or anything else. But both, changing when things change for you has a huge net payoff. Like people who actually change careers 2 or 3 times usually end up retiring with more money at the end of their life, just because typically to have to be recruited by another company, they're going to have to give you a good sign-on bonus or typically a decent raise, more so than you would get in a normal increment. So like it's recommended by most economists these days, have at least 1 or 2 career changes in your life versus, and there are exceptions, but like 35 years at the same company. It also just keeps things fresh. You learn new stuff. You get to experience, hang out with new people. Consulting is a bit different because every project is a new experience. But don't be afraid to explore other options. It's not cheating on the company to do so. And it's sometimes it might pay off to like you know explore a different path in a different field or with a different organization.
Yeah, and continues always in the path of looking for your passion. It's great to love what you do daily basis. It's
Exactly.
great to have that feeling. It's great to have that feeling of keep following your passion. And it's gonna be there. It's good. That should be the message. Keep following the path, keep searching, keep asking you questions about your passion, and you're not gonna be there. Because it's key to kind of getting your time. As you mentioned before. Kind of every Friday you blog sometimes just for you, and that is not work. It's following your passion. You're loving what you're doing. You're searching for yourself and searching. Okay, what's next for me? That is the key message here.
And I think you could ethically do that both internally or externally. I mean, and Mark, you hit on the idea of make a move when you're getting bored. Like that could be having a conversation with your manager, like, hey, I feel a bit stuck in the job that I like. It's starting to feel old hat. I just want something new and fresh. But you can, I think, give equal opportunity both to the organization to potentially give you something to allow yourself to find the passion again. And if you can't find it there, then you also have an option to explore externally. But I think you can fairly give options to both current and future roles, the positions that you're in, and then from there make a decision of do I want to move horizontally in my company? Do I want to move vertically? Or do I maybe want to like switch to a different organization? But Google's a wonderful thing, and sometimes like just having the thoughts and starting those conversations with yourself can lead to hopefully really positive change.
Yeah, that's correct.
But yes, Don, thanks so much for tuning in today and joining. Like this has been fantastic. Hope to have you back on at some point. Everyone, like I've appreciated the how lively the chat was today. I always just enjoy the comments and just seeing the feed. People were very appreciative of you, Gaston, and I think there was just great conversations going on in there. So yeah, thanks everyone
Yeah.
for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see everyone next week.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. Cheers.
See ya.
Thank you so much for watching. Please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And if you want to help support this channel, take a look at our channel memberships as well. And last but not least, please consider sharing this video on social media to help pass on this awesome content and to help the channel grow. So until next time.